And welcome back. And we're getting ready to move into our second conversation for today. This one is very important. We have been providing you with Easter tips, and this one is talking about medical emergencies and what you can do. We have with us, of course, well-known emergency medical technician, Javier Canul, and of course, he is now heading up ABC training.
ABC life support.
Life support, right? So good morning and welcome.
Hey, good morning, guys. Good morning, Belize. Thanks for having me aboard.
Yes.
I'm glad I'm here to share a little bit of my knowledge with the public.
Yes.
Seeing it's an Easter break, I'm here for that purpose.
There's so many things that could happen during Easter time, but once again, let's just go back to talking about some of the training that you do have. An emergency medical technician is the person who first starts the care for any person who has been injured or is in an emergency situation. Tell us about the training that you have.
Okay, you're correct, but not so correct. Basically, whenever something happens, the first person who gets there is actually the person who starts, like me and you. And that is one of the reasons why ABC Life Support has established itself in terms of, we want every single citizen in this country to know basic first aid. Because if anything happens and you don't know what to do, you automatically break the chain of survival. Without you, then nothing else can happen. So that is very, very important. So you have you. Then comes, when you get there, you know what to do, you call for help. Then comes the police, if necessary. The police gets in there, cordon off the area, and start basic first aid treatment. Then comes the ambulance, who will then take over from you. And then they will take you to the hospital. The nurse then take over, and it goes to the doctor, and the treatment just gets higher and higher. So ABC Life Support is here to make sure everybody learns basic life support as much as possible, because it's very important.
I suppose that's the very first issue, which is I wouldn't feel empowered to know what to do if an emergency takes place. But what you're saying is there are some basics that we should do.
That's right.
Right? So tell us. And there are many different types of emergencies, but what is the basic information that people need to know? Well,
some basic information is we have to remember scene safety. That's a priority, it's a paramount, it's a must, it's everything, because you do not want to become one of the persons who has been hurt. If I go to you, I will make sure that nobody else go, because I don't know why you collapse. I don't know what has happened. If there's a road traffic accident on the scene, I don't know if the vehicle is ready to be exploding. I don't know what's going on inside. So my priority is to make sure that everybody, if I am there, and this is what all of us should do if we learn first aid, to make sure everybody stay back, ensure the scene is safe, look around to make sure it is safe. If you go to somebody's home, somebody is dropped because of a cardiac arrest problem, you don't know if that person has a dog that is wrong with them everywhere now, because people are animal lovers. So that dog will always be protective. You going in there to try to help, the next thing you know, you get bit by that dog or a cat or a geese, whatever it may be. The scene must be safe. So that's priority. You, then everybody else, and then the patient. If you go in there and you see that the scene is not safe, then what you must do at that point is call the necessary agents that can make the scene safe. When they come, they will make the scene safe. Then that's when you go in. At this point, you will then start treating the patient for the illness or the injury that they suffered. Now, three things we need to remember. We need to make sure the patient is breathing. And if the patient is not breathing, we need to open the airway. And I brought a little demonstration purpose. When a patient is like this, if you look at this carefully, you notice that his airway is closed. The tongue is the #1 thing that blocks the airway. But when we do a simple technique, like opening the airway, you see automatically this area becomes open and the patient is now able to breathe.
And that would be what? Tilting back the head?
Just tilting back the head.
So if somebody is lying down like this,
the airway is closed.
The airway is closed.
That's
here, right? So what we want to do is
open the airway.
Tilt the head if they're not breathing.
And if you're not trained in first aid, it just means just push the head back. But if you are trained, that's when we want to use what we call the head tilt, chin lift. Fingers under the chin, fan on the forehead, and push the head back. The corner of the jaw, not under the chin. Because if a patient is like this, and you do this, you're closing the jaw, you're closing the mouth. So at the corner of the jaw, and you push the head back. Most of the pressure goes here. This is just to guide it.
To ensure that the
airway becomes open. Because if the tongue is blocking it, it will remain closed. So that's the first thing you want to do, open the airway. The second thing, because if somebody is not breathing and you go to stop bleeding, you will stop the bleeding of a dead man because he's not breathing. So you need to make sure the person is breathing.
First thing is breathing.
Then you want to find any area that is bleeding. If it's bleeding, you need to stop that bleeding. And doing that, if you know the person that is bleeding, if it's your child, your loved one, your mom, your dad, who you know does not suffer from a terminal illness, then of course you can use your hand alone. If not, always remember to use one of these if you have them. It's a pair of gloves that is called body substance isolation. Okay, if you don't have this, put your hand in a plastic bag.
Yeah.
And many of us, I'm sure maybe one of you guys might carry a condom. You can push your hand in that condom and get your hand in there and you can work with that stuff just to apply pressure on the area.
Because
so
you don't know the victim's status.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you need to protect yourself. Remember, we talk about scene safety first.
Yes.
So you stop that bleeding.
How do you stop the bleeding?
Okay. How do we stop a bleeding? Well, basically, let's say somebody, Isani, if you don't mind, can I?
Sure.
Okay. I can come over to you.
I just broke you in some way, right?
Yeah.
So now there's rushing blood. Yeah.
If, let's say, for example, Isani has a cut here.
Yeah.
All right? The first thing you want to do, grab anything you can find. Anything. It doesn't matter if it's
shirt,
dirty.
yeah.
It doesn't matter. Grab anything you can. You grab a cloth, anything, and you want to do what we call direct pressure.
Okay.
You'll apply direct pressure to the area. And it is simply what it states, direct pressure on the wound. So you push down, and you hold it there. If this area starts to become flooded with more blood, then you get another, and you open, and you push it on top again. Do not remove the first one, because what happens is that blood starts to coagulate, or it forms a scab to slow down the bleeding. If you remove this, it starts to bleed all over. So keep it there, and then you put another one on top.
So what you're trying to do is to stop the loss of blood.
That's right.
What if there's like a bone protrusion there?
Well, if there's a bone protrusion, you don't want to apply any pressure.
Okay.
You just want to get the person out as quickly as possible.
Okay. Okay.
All right? You need to maintain it, because normally when bone are out, it's blocking the bleeding from moving out. Yeah. So that you don't mess with it. Just keep the person, keep it stable.
Okay. So this is a gush or a cut or a gash.
That's right. And then you have to remember that there are 3 types of bleeding. There is what we call arterial bleeding, which if you look in the movies, whenever it's bleeding, you see every time a heart beat, it spurts out. So you should be able to identify that type of bleeding, because if you call for help, whosoever is on the other end of the line will ask you, what type of bleeding are you seeing? You have to say, oh, miss, I see the blood rushing out, spurting.
Okay.
Then they will be able to put a sense of urgency and say it's an arterial bleeding.
Okay.
And if you call for help, the person on the other end of that phone should be able to assist you in what to do. Okay? So you apply direct pressure. So there's arterial bleeding, there is venous bleeding. You ever bust your head yet?
No.
Isani?
Thankfully,
You bust, but when you bust your head, you'll see blood to run and it's running down slowly.
It just kind of like,
Yeah,
it's like
it's
a
not
curtain coming
spurting.
over your face. Yeah.
And that's called venous bleeding. And you notice with that bleeding, it's not bright red in color. It's not bright red because it's lacking of oxygen.
Yeah.
Okay.
With arterial bleeding, it will always be bright red because it's rich in oxygen content. And then there is capillary bleeding, which is if you skate on a motorcycle, you see that
Like
white, then you see
speckled blood,
blood, and then everything else. But to continue here, so you apply a direct pressure, do not remove the first one, keep bulky dressing on top. If this still does not stop, you want to elevate it higher than the heart. If the person's bone is not broken.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay? If it is broken, then you need to go directly to what we call a pressure point. There are pressure points all over the body. But some of the main one you want to remember are called this one, if you do this, from the tip of the elbow to your armpit, Isani, you draw an imaginary line, and right on that line, right about here, is a pressure point. Why? Because this is called the brachial artery. It's a major artery that links the arm. This artery pushes all blood to the arm. So if you squeeze here, it automatically slows down the bleeding. If you go to sleep at night and you sleep on your hand, what happens?
It gets
numb because your head has been stopping the bleeding. Okay, but so by applying that here, slowing it down and got direct pressure here, things will start to happen for you. People will be around. You can call them for help. Get somebody to continue applying pressure, and thereby you can finish off with this area by applying what we call
Dressing.
a pressure bandage.
Okay.
And a pressure bandage basically, and again, you can use anything you can find.
Most of the time people just pull clothing that they have around there.
And you just apply. Why this is called a pressure bandage is because you'll be tying a knot directly on top of the wound to maintain pressure.
Okay.
All
So
right?
you want to stop the bleeding because you don't want them to bleed out.
That's right.
Okay.
So if the man is breathing and you don't stop the bleeding,
Yeah.
he'll die.
Yeah.
Okay? And then the third thing you want to do, so that we went through breathing, we went through bleeding. The third thing, which is very, very crucial and important, is what we call circulation. If you see that the guy is not bleeding, his airway is open, you then want to check him for a pulse. And he's not moving, check him for a pulse. The pulse you want to check for anybody who is not breathing or not moving is always the carotid pulse, the one that runs in your neck. And it's important for us to know what that is.
Yeah.
First of all, to find that carotid pulse. And this is important for all you viewers.
Yeah, because people just always put their hand
This is
anywhere
very,
and
very
everywhere.
important. The first thing is don't check for a pulse with your thumb. There's a pulse that runs here. It's called the radial pulse. All right? So how do we find the carotid pulse? Well, you find your windpipe, like we call it, or medical term, the trachea. Then you find the muscle that runs in the neck here. Between the muscle and the trachea, put two fingers right here. These two fingers, pointer and tall man. You put them right here. And if you do that, you will feel the pulse beating. You got it? Maybe, okay, once you find it on yourself, for you viewers at home, once you find it, try to find it on somebody else because it's important. You won't be finding it on yourself most of the time. You'll be finding it on somebody else, right?
Why can't I check my own heart rate? I'm kidding.
Okay?
Yeah. So that was really helpful. So there's a neck muscle.
That's right. And
your
the windpipe.
trachea.
That's right. And
Right
there.
here.
That's
There's
right. Right in between
here,
there.
like the halfway point. Here. Yeah.
All right? Now, and that runs on both sides of the neck.
Yeah.
Okay? That's the heart beats and it sends blood directly up to the brain.
Yeah.
So that would be the last pulse that will stop breathing. So that's why it's important for you to find that pulse.
Let's segue a little bit here.
Okay.
This is in respect of any persons who may have suffered broken limbs or cuts or what have you. But when we're looking at incidents that occur around water, CPR and all that other stuff.
Okay.
Can you speak on that?
Sure, definitely. First of all, anybody who is drowning or who has been underwater for approximately 10 minutes, when your heart stops, there is still oxygen within your bloodstream for approximately 4 minutes before it wastes out. But the brain and the main organs of the body needs oxygen. But if the heart stops, then the blood is not going around. It's not giving the brain and the main organs blood. And without that blood, there is no oxygen. So that's when we need to start pumping.
Yeah.
If somebody is underwater, all you need to do, take them out, start CPR.
But many people don't know CPR.
And so we'll be getting there,
Yeah.
okay? But
Yeah.
thank you. And this is why ABC Life Support is around.
Yeah.
Give us a call.
Yeah.
Give us a call and we will guide you through that process. And one of the process we'll be talking about today is one of the easiest, simplest process. If you do not know CPR in its entirety, for medical professionals, the person who, like myself, the person who works on the ambulance, the nurse, the doctor, anybody who works in a hospital setting needs to know the entire process of CPR, which we'll be covering in a few moments. But for you who don't know anything about CPR, this is important. There's a thing called hands-only CPR.
Hands
Only
Okay.
CPR. And why is this important? Let's say approximately 90% of people who has cardiac arrest and CPR is given to them out of the hospital dies. 70% of people who have a cardiac arrest, it happens in their home. And because me and you don't know what to do, they die.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, according to research, if you start CPR immediately, a chance of 40% exists that they might survive if the chain is followed accordingly. The chain means you start the process, you call for help, the ambulance come, the ambulance do what they're supposed to do, the patient get to the hospital, and the process continues. But hands-only CPR works like this. If we could get the video going, hands-only CPR, and this is a little comical. Okay, so let's look at it. But basically, we want you to follow some of the basic steps.
So this is for persons who are not trained in
who are not
CPR,
trained,
right?
or anybody.
Yeah.
If you forget, because in time of battle, we tend to, what to do?
Like I would be scared to do chest compressions because I just feel like I'll break somebody's ribs.
That's
well,
right.
not that I'm that strong, but that's what I'm imagining.
That's
So
right.
this would be perfect.
This would be perfect. And the reason I chose this one is because it's a kid doing it.
Okay.
And it's important. So anybody can do it. So let's see.
So let's check it out.
And your mum or dad ain't around. What do? We need a volunteer that ain't breathing. Here's one I made earlier. First off, check you're not in any danger. Then check him over. If he ain't breathing or making noises like this, then he's having a cardiac arrest. Shout for help. Help! Then call 999. I know, don't panic. The geezer on the end of the phone will tell you what to do. And no kissing. Don't even kiss your nan on the lips. Lock your fingers, knuckles up, and push hard and fast here on the sovereign to the tune of Staying Alive. Push down 5 to 6 centimetres. That's about 3 inches, whatever they are. Push hard and fast, go on. Better a cracked rib than him kicking the bucket. Do this until help arrives.
That's my boy.
Remember, shout for help, call 999, push hard and fast to Staying Alive.
Hands only CPR. It's not as hard as it looks. This is for
It's called hands only.
All right.
Okay, and that is why it is called hands only CPR, because there's no mouth to mouth. There's two things I want to make correction here on this video. You don't call 999.
Obviously.
You call 911.
Okay.
I would recommend, however, that you call the ambulance directly.
Yes.
223-3292, because the dispatcher will be able to help you in that end. 1 and 2, you don't push down 3 inches. You push down 1.5 to 2 inches.
Okay.
But you want to go to that beat of staying alive. That is, some people say, I don't know how fast we go or how slow we go. Keep it in your mind. Boom, boom, boom. The rhythm moves like that.
Okay.
So if I can give you a demonstration of what they actually did, really quick to recap. So the person is on the ground. If the kid says the first thing you do is look for scene safety. Make sure the scene is safe.
Yeah, check for danger.
You then get in there and
Check for breathing.
you check for breathing. And you look at the guy and you look at him and you say, hey, are you okay? Help! And then immediately, if he's not responding, you already call for help. You put your hand here.
How do you find the location?
Okay. There's we call it, okay, American Heart Association will tell you find the lower half of the breastbone. Now, I don't know if you know where that is. So my thing is, you find between the nipple lines, in the center of the chest.
Okay.
You put the hand that makes you more comfortable. You put the hard part of your hand in the center of the chest. So you put that here, lock it over like that, and then you want to make sure you're over the patient. You shouldn't be like this, because you'll be pushing off the heart. You shouldn't be too much over, or you'll be falling over in your face. So make sure your body is square. Your legs should be approximately 6 inches.
Okay.
Okay? And be as close as possible to the patient. And you go down like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
No mouth to mouth.
No mouth to mouth. You do that for 30 compressions.
Okay.
Once you reach 30 compressions, if you get tired, you take a break and you can count in your mind for 10 seconds. Why 10 seconds? This 10 seconds is important because that 10 seconds you'd be using to give breaths if you had somebody to give breaths.
Yeah.
But because there's nobody to give breaths, you can rest for 10 seconds, but only 10 seconds. As soon as you reach 9, you should be already getting ready and you go and you start over again. Now, one cycle is 30 compressions. That's one cycle. And if you do a second set, it is 2 cycles. And you will do that for 5 cycles. After 5 cycles, that's when you will recheck for the pulse. And where will you check for the pulse? The carotid pulse, between the muscle in the neck and the trachea, right here. So you do that on the person. If you feel a pulse, hooray.
Yeah.
All right? You then put the
Then you
person.
continue.
That's right. If not, then you continue again.
Yeah.
And that's hands-only CPR. And the reason for that, why it's important, is because remember, there is oxygen in the bloodstream. But if I do not push down on the heart, it will be wasted.
Yeah.
The quicker I start the process, the better the survival for the patient.
Yeah.
And this is what happened to most of us. We're afraid because we say, me no want to put my mouth on for him out. But if we know that we should only do compression, the chances are you will want to start the process because you know that you will have to push down in the chest. Talking about breaking the rib.
I think the video was the first thing to dispel my concern. My concern was breaking somebody's ribs. And I know, obviously, I don't look like I'm strong enough to do it, but that just looks like pressing on someone's chest. That's the first thing that comes to my mind.
And I agree with you. Most of the time, that rib will be broken. It will detach it. It won't be broken. It will detach itself from the sternum or the main
The center
breastbone.
part,
It will detach because of constant compression. If you take a wire and you do this, eventually it will break. So it's the same thing that will happen. However, if that happens, it will heal up back.
Okay.
Versus, you don't do it and the person just dies. Okay?
Now, you talked about the level, let me try, the level of pressure. That's the part that I think is concerning. So we're in an emergency, and ideally what we're supposed to do, I have no first aid training, I should say that much, is to do the chest compressions, right?
That's right. Make sure the scene is safe because that is important.
Okay, let's see. So here is my loved one. I'm obviously, or it could be a stranger. The first thing we do is check for breathing.
Hey, are you okay? Help!
Help! And
then you ask somebody to call.
call 911 or call Bert, right? And then
You put the strong hand.
do I already lift the head? That's
No,
like
you
the
don't-
first thing?
You don't worry about that.
Okay,
Breathing is not important. What is
Okay.
important, you start compressions.
okay.
So you put the hand that makes you more comfortable.
Like which hand? I'm right-handed.
Preferably, I am right-handed. I always use my left hand first. And
Okay.
this is the hard part of your hand. So you want to take this hand.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
look for the center of the chest.
So there's the center. So
Center of the chest.
right here.
That's right. And then you want to sit up, lean up, lean up, lean. And then you want to keep his arms straight, and you want to go down like that. No, don't bend your elbows. Stay still. Let me show you something.
Okay.
Keep your elbows still. Don't open. Don't lock. Yeah, that's what you want to do. Okay. Go. Let's try. Keep the song in your mind.
30
Staying
compressions,
alive,
Marlene.
Staying alive.
Am I going too slow? Is it too far? How do you? I mean, you really don't know how hard to push.
You just push down as hard as you can. There's
Okay.
no way for us to really measure. I got 3 inches, or I got 2 inches.
Okay.
Push down as hard as you can. Let it be steady. Give me 10 good one. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's it. Those are good compressions. But remember, you have to do that for 30.
30.
30
And it's very tiring. So trust me, if
And
you
on a
didn't
real
call for help,
person.
you'll be in problems. You'll become tired. You'll be fatigued.
And if it's a child?
If it's a child, it's the same process.
Yeah.
Well, you don't do hands-only CPR on a child.
Yeah.
Okay, a child and an adult, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
But how do we determine if it's a child or an adult is based on puberty.
Okay.
0 to 1 is an infant.
Okay.
1 to puberty, and it doesn't matter what age a child is at puberty, considered an adult.
Okay.
Okay? So
All
if
right.
they're not in puberty, they're still
You're
a
good
child.
now. Don't worry.
Anything above that, they're an adult.
Now,
so you do the same thing for
this
them.
would be something you'd do if you pulled somebody out of water.
It's the same process. The thing is, you will need to get them out of the water.
Yeah.
In the past, we used to say, roll them over. We need to get the water out. No. If you start chest compression on the person, when you're pushing down on the chest, you're pushing down on the lungs at the same time.
Okay.
And then doing that, as you're pushing down, you'll be seeing water coming out. Water is coming out. And you're working on the heart.
Yeah.
So the heart will actually, eventually, if it works, will start to beat. If it's a child, their chance of survival is greater than me and you.
Really?
Yes, because a child doesn't normally suffer from a cardiac arrest. What they suffer from is respiratory arrest. It means they stop breathing.
Okay.
So all you need to get is kicking back the respiratory drive. But if the heart is dead, then we're having a problem. Now, let's do the regular CPR that people need to refresh on.
Yeah.
So, and we're going to do it with a pocket mask. And these masks are for sale. Roughly they cost like $25 to $30 each.
Okay.
It's a mask, and it comes with a one-way valve. One way because when I blow in, everything comes from the bottom.
Okay.
When the patient comes up, everything comes from the bottom of this thing. So we set it up. So here we are. Let's put this here. So we come. Step 1, you need to make sure the scene is safe. And you put on your gloves or whatever you have. That's step 1. Step 2, you move in. Hey, 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 are you okay? Help! And you're shouting for help because maybe you might be by yourself.
Yeah.
And then while somebody is coming, you'll be checking for the pulse, find the trachea, find the muscle, check for that pulse, and be feeling for that heartbeat, and you'll be looking for breathing at the same time. And you'll be doing that for 5 to 10 seconds, no more than 10 seconds. And if there's no pulse, let's say somebody walked through the door at the same time, hey you, go for help. Tell them to bring the AED or call Bert or call anybody. So the person is gone. What do I need to do immediately? Find the nipple line and we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. I have 10 seconds to give breath. 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The process continues.
Okay.
Back and forth. Now, very important.
Why is that necessary?
What?
That tool that you have there, yeah.
Well, I don't know this guy.
Okay.
And I don't know what is wrong with him. I don't know what kind of illness he has.
Okay.
So it's a protective barrier.
So it'd
that
be
we
great
use.
to have that like in your car along with gloves or
Very
yeah.
importantly. And this actually comes with a pair of gloves on its own. This
Okay.
comes with a glove that comes inside. And this looks like this.
So it's an emergency case.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's a way that you use this. The pointed part goes to the nose and the
Okay.
wide part goes to the mouth. But I was saying, and this is important, after you finish 30 compressions and you need to give breaths, you can't do 28, 29, 30. Maras are tired. And then take the mask and take your own time and give this. You only have 10 seconds. And the 10 seconds doesn't start when you want. It starts
It's instant.
immediately. So
it's-
as soon
it's
as
a
I say
fluid- it's a
28,
fluid
29,
motion.
30, I need 10 seconds is already counting. When I reach 30, you start counting for 10 seconds. 1, 2, 28, 29, 30.
That's 10 seconds.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
And it has to be back and forth, back and forth. You'll do that for as long as you need to. Think about it as if it's your loved one and you want your loved one to survive.
Yeah.
That's what you want to do. So you take the person out of the water and start chest compressions immediately. Just do CPR.
Yeah.
And if I need to mention this, one of the very important things we need to remember, hands-only CPR should never be done on a child or an infant
Okay.
because they normally need breath for a respiratory drive.
Yeah.
It should not be done on anybody that we're taking out of a drowning situation. You can start the process, but eventually somebody must get there to give breath as quickly as possible. Why? Because they have been lacking of oxygen.
Yeah.
If somebody is on heroin kills their respiratory drive. So eventually they will be there and their heart is beating and eventually they'll stop breathing, but their heart is still going. So in that case, you need to compression and give breaths. So those are some of the reasons why you wouldn't give
So the hands only is for cardiac arrest primarily.
cardiac arrest primarily, that's right.
All right. So we talked about being able to respond in cardiac arrest if there's drowning. One of the things I actually find very interesting is that people forget how quickly they have to call for emergency care. You see somebody drowning and they're pulling out somebody. You're more worried about getting them out than you are about calling for help. Should you call for help even before if you know the person is okay?
That's a very good question, and I'm going to tell you that most of the time people tend to forget. If you're in an emergency and your pulse is racing faster than mine, and I'm the patient, and your pulse is going faster than mine, then something is wrong.
Yeah.
Because then I've lost everything.
Yeah.
And yes, to answer your question, that's part of the reason why we don't call for help. But most of the time, we want to call for help almost immediately because I can always call you back and say, you know what, it's okay. But if I don't call for help and I really need it and I didn't call you, then we're in problems.
Yeah.
So it's important to call for help. Who will you call? The necessary agencies that you need to call.
Yeah. I always love the recommendation that you give that instead of calling through a dispatcher of 911, and there's nothing wrong with 911, but in an emergency situation, it's better you have the ambulance stored directly in your phone. They have a dispatcher as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
Marlene, I want to drift the topic just a little bit. One of the things that ABC Life Support is working on, and I'm working tirelessly on it. I've made contact with the police, I've made contact with the fire department, I've made contact with several EMS agency.
Yeah.
And EMS agencies are anybody that would go to an accident scene or would be a part of any emergency that happens. We need to get together and we need to sit down and discuss these things.
Yeah.
Because I'm preaching one thing, everybody's doing their own thing. But until we get together as a unit, then we'll have a strengthened and
Yeah.
a tightened EMS system in the country.
Yeah.
Until we do that, then it won't happen.
Yeah.
Okay?
What else can we talk about? There's one more issue that we see around Easter quite often, and those are car accidents. Tell us about what is the best way to approach a car wreck and how to help people survive.
It's a tall question, and I think I've
Yeah.
answered it all, but let me put it together again. Basically, your scene safety is most important.
Yeah.
If the ambulance would get to that scene and the ambulance refused to go in, there's no need for you to be shouting and cussing the persons who are working there because they know why. The scene is probably not safe. They need to call the necessary agencies to get it done.
Yeah.
Once a scene is made safe, that's when they can go in. If you, as a passerby, just get in there and want to run in, these guys will only tell you, hey, it's not safe, don't go, and you still want to go, then that's your business. We can't force you.
So people need to understand
They need to understand that scene safety
Yeah.
is a paramount.
Okay.
The second thing is, if you come across an incident and you're not trained, don't get involved. All right?
Likely
call for help.
Call for help. And if anybody who comes along who is trained, you can tell them and they can guide the process. However, if you come along and you're trained, but you get there and you see people already working, you can say, do you need my help? And if they say it's okay, back off. Because they always say, too many hands, spoil the pot.
Yeah.
Give the people a chance to work. However, if you are more experienced in that particular area,
Yeah.
then you can say, okay, I am so and so,
Let me
and I
take
have
over.
many years
Yeah.
experience. Can I take the lead, or what
Yeah.
would you like me to do?
Yeah.
Fit in, because remember, it's not who is who. It's a teamwork.
Yeah.
It needs to be done as a team,
Yeah.
and everybody has their role to play.
So if you are trained, you jump into the situation, say, I'm a doctor, I'm a trained EMT, and then maybe you'll be able to manage things better. But
That's
with
right.
accident scenes, I keep on remembering that the advice is never to pull the people out of the car. And
That's
we
right.
still see it happening all the time.
At ABC Life Support, I have been stressing a lot on what you can do till professional help comes along.
Yeah.
Do the basic. The airway if needed, if needs to. Stop any bleeding if needs to.
Yeah.
Check for a pulse if need to, but do not remove the patient.
Yeah.
Unless, and I repeat this and I want this to be known clearly, unless it's a life and death situation,
Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's a fire starting nearby.
that's right,
Yeah.
then you can do that. If you're not a firefighter, don't go and try to out the fire and try to take out the patient. You can become a victim yourself. The paramedic or the EMT, when they get to that scene, will never try to go into a burning building to save anybody,
Yeah.
because that's not our
Firefighter,
scope of practice. And talking about scope of practice is important for first aider, basic first aider, advanced first aider, EMT, paramedics, whoever you are, you must remember to stay within your scope of practice. Meaning, don't do what you are not taught to do. If you see it on TV, it don't mean that it's right to do. You need to do what you have learned and stay there. Don't come out.
Yeah.
Okay?
All right. Well, of course, this was our crash course on how to manage emergency medical situations. Javier, we know you keep on advocating that people need to be trained at least in the basics of CPR. How do people get in touch with you if they're interested in training?
Thank you for that, Marlene. Basically, I have a Facebook page called ABC Life Support. You can reach me there in my inbox or whatever. And also you can contact me at 615-5757. The same number you can call Ozzy on.
And that number a lot of people have. Yeah.
615-5757.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming in.
And thank you for having me. If I may just make one comment, I want to encourage everybody in Belize. Take a first aid training. It doesn't have to be with me. It's important that we do a first aid training. The life you save might be the relative, your relative, or somebody else in your community, in your church. You need to become certified.
Yeah.
But check ABC Life Support. We have a deal for you.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
We're going to go ahead now and take our final break. And when we come back, we'll have our wrap-up. So stay tuned.